Hello, I'm Minister Dove, and this is Freedom Wings Ministries Corporation. And tonight we have Genesis chapter 31 in our continuous reading of Genesis and the study of the King James Bible. So number 31 in Genesis. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. And Jacob behold the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father hath been with me. And ye know that with all my power I have served your father, and your father has deceived me, and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. If he said thus, The speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, The ring struck it shall be thy heir, then bear all the cattle ring struck it. Then bear all the cattle ring struck it. So basically what we see is I just lost my thought. Go figure it. So basically what we see is Jacob saying, I worked. Well, you know what? I'm a little confused and puzzled. I'm trying to simplify, and I just read it. So, I have certain different disabilities with things. Let me read number 9. Thus God has taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. Alright, so I'm going to go back to the beginning, where it says, And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's has he gotten all his glory. And Jacob behold the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee, and I will be with thee. So he says, return to your father's land, and I will be with you as you return. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father has been with me. But the God of my father has been with me. So, Jacob is returning to his father's land, and he says, God has been with me. And ye know that with all my power I have served your father. Right? So he's talking about serving the father of Jacob's daughters, Rachel and Leah to the field. Okay, number 4. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto the flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, and that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father has been with me. The God of my father has been with me. We see that again. And ye know that with all my power I have served your father. So yes, so he's talking to, so Jacob is talking to Rachel and Leah. Leah. It's L-E-A-H. Leah. Rachel and Leah. And he says, I have worked for your father, and I am returning to your father's land, and God has been with me as I return to your father's land. And he says, your father betrayed me, with changing my wages all these times, for I took care of his flock and worked diligently for him. That's the moral of this. So number 7, and your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. God suffered him not to hurt me. So even though the wages were changed and he worked for the father of Sarah and Leah, Jacob says, but God said not to hurt me. God said not to hurt me. And God has not hurt. And Jacob's the father of Rachel and Leah, whom Jacob has worked for, has not hurt them. It's a little complex because it's the King James, but you know what? I may be a minister, but I'm not perfect by any means. And we're just reading the Bible bit by bit, story by story, and we're seeing how it attributes to everyday life. Strikes and unions and things. Jacob is saying, wait a minute here now. Leah and Rachel, your father betrayed me 10 times by changing my wages for me taking care of his livestock and his lands and his livelihood. Right, so we're on number 8. Number 8, chapter 31, Genesis. If he said thus, the speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, the ring stackered shall be thy heir, then bear all the cattle ring stackered. Thus God has taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring-struck, speckled, and garisled. It's what it says, garisled. Grisled, garisled, and garisled. And the angel of God spoke unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here am I. And he said, Lift up now thine eye, and see all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-struck, speckled, and garisled. For I have seen all that Laban doeth unto thee. All that Laban doeth unto thee. All that Laban doeth unto thee, that I have seen. God. So Jacob, in this dream, God is saying, I have seen all your hard work. I have seen all your hard work. Number 13, I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointest the pillar, and where thou vowedest a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of the kingdom. Return unto the land of the kingdom. So again, in this dream, he's being told, return home. Return home, he says. God says in this dream. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, It is there yet any portion, our inheritance, for us in our father's house. So Rachel and Rachel. It's okay. So I'm saying Rachel, but it says Rachel, R-A hyphen C-H-E, Rachel, and Leah, L-E hyphen A-H, answered and said unto him, Is this yet any portion our inheritance for us in our father's house? So they're saying, but we belong in our father's house. What is it for us? What is this cattle? What is this land? What is it for us within our father's house? Number 15, are we not counted of him strangers? For he has sold us, and has quite devoured also our money. For all the riches with God has taken from our father, all is our and our children's now. Then whatsoever God has said unto thee do. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he carried away all his cattle and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting which he had gotten in Padanaram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. Go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. So he's returning home, as I said in the last couple of phrases. But now we know he's going to Isaac in the land of Canaan, and he's taking the cattle and his the women that are with him. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were his father's. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban in Syrian. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban in Syrian, and that he told him not that he fled. He told them not that he fled. So actually, he's taking, let me read, it's number 19. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images of his that were her father's. And Jacob stole away unawareness to Laban in Syrian, in that he told him not that he fled, and that he told them not that he fled. So it's a little confusing, but I guess Laban and Rachel, they stole certain things that were the sheep and the cattle in different numbers, and Jacob sneaks away. He sneaks away. He says, I'm going to Isaac. I'm going to my fatherland. Alright. So 22. And it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled. And he took the brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey. And they overtook him in the Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban, Syrian, in a dream that night, and said unto him, Take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mountain of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives taken with the sword? As captives taken with the sword. So Rachel and Laban, Rachel, yeah, so Rachel and, let me see, is it pronounced Rachel? Laban, alright. Laban appears to be whom Jacob is talking about in 2, but I'm trying to find out, I'm looking back, and I'm trying to see, Leah, Rachel and Leah, so Laban kind of sounds like Leah, but Leah, Rachel and Leah are the women that are with Jacob, and the sheep and the cattle and everything. And so let me read number 25. Then Laban overtook Jacob's. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched the mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives, taken away the sword? So Laban is father to the women which are with Jacob. Number 27. Wherefore dost thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and dost not tell me that I might have sent thee away with mirth and with songs, with tabret and with harp, and hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. So Laban is agitated with Jacob, taking Rachel and Leah and going off on a journey back to his homeland with the sheep and the cattle and the herds. Laban saying, "What have you stolen from me? What have you taken?" Without even letting me say goodbye to my kin. You didn't even let me say goodbye to my kin, is what Laban is saying. Does that not all belong to me, he says, and you wither away in the night like thieves taking my things. That's the best way to say it. You quiver away in the night like thieves taking my things, is what Laban is saying to Jacob, where he has taken Leah and Rachel and the cattle and sheep and things that he has worked the land with for several years, upon which he has said previously that now we know it's Laban has taken and changed his wages and treated him badly. Alright, so let me see. Actually, does it say Laban? Yes, Laban. And the very first beginning that we read with 31. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which our fathers has gotten all this glory, and that which our father has gotten. Laban's sons. Jacob has taken away from Laban. Yes, Jacob has taken away from Laban. So, alright, let's go back now. In number 29. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the God of our father spoke unto me yesternight, saying, Take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now though thou wildest needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Peradventure thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me. And whomso thou findest thy gods, let him not live before a brethren. Discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went unto Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into two maidservants' tents, but he found them not. Then went he out of Leah's tent, and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken images and put them in the camel's furniture, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. Searched all the tent, but found them not. So Laban is searching for Jacob, and he's searching for Leah, and he's going through Rachel's tent and everything. And he doesn't find what Leah has done with the animals when she sheared them. Leah. And Laban searched the tent, but found not them. Whose tent is he searching? Let's go back here. Rachel. He's searching Rachel's tent, and yes, I think Rachel was the one that sheared the sheep at the beginning of the story. So Rachel, he finds not what she has made with the sheep and the cattle, and so he's on this journey to find Jacob and his daughters and the things that have been taken from him. And his anger he wants to harm. He says, I should take harm onto Jacob for doing this. And God says, do not harm Jacob. Do not harm him. I know you're angry, but do not harm him. So let's continue on. Number 35. And she said to her father, let it not displease my Lord that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. And he shared, but found not the images. And Jacob was worth in number 36. And Jacob was worth in Chad with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my trespass? What is my sin, that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? Whereas thou hast searched all my stuff, what hast thou found of all thy household stuff? Set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge betwixt with us. It's betwixt, it's old language from the King James, but it says betwixt. It's betwixt, betwixt us both. So Jacob is saying, why? Why do you forsakenly pursue me? And number 38, this 20 years have I been with thee, thou ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of the flock have not eaten. That which was torn of beasts I brought unto thee, I bear the loss of it. Of my hand doeth thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was in the day, the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from mine eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. So we see the story coming to Jacob saying, come on now. I did this for your daughters. I did this for your cattle. You've done this to me 10 times with changing my wages. Number 41. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me. Surely thou hast sent me away, now empty. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked them yesternight. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, these daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children, which they have borne? Now therefore come thou, let us make a covenant, and I thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone, and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, gather stones. And they took stones, and made an heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it Jergasada, Jergasadatha. It's Ed. Jergasalada. Solid, sorry. Jergasalied. Yeah, Jergasalied. Number 48. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Galad. And Mizpah, for he said, The Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent from one another. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me, thee. Let me read that. It's number 50. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. So there's a pact that's being made amongst the men, amongst Jacob and Isaac and Laban, onto promisehood. They're promising each other that they will take care of these women and that no other husbands shall have them. Well, actually, Jacob is the one that's been caring for the women, but now there's a promise between Laban and Jacob and Isaac that these women are Jacob, that these women are to be cared for. It's confusing as to who is taking care of who and what owns with what, but we'll just say that the women are being promised to be taken care of, and that no other men shall have them. They bear witness upon God. They are saying, God, bear witness upon us that we will take care of these women. Alright, now where did I leave off? Right, number 51. And Laban said unto Jacob, Behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast between me and thee. The heap be witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and that thou shalt not pass over the heap and this pillar unto me for harm. And God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. So Jacob's father is Isaac. And Laban was the man that Jacob was working for. So Jacob now is trying to return to Isaac. And this is the promise he makes. Laban is mad that Jacob takes off at night, and he catches up with him, rummages through the tents to find out what's stolen, what's not stolen, and and he says, "You have taken my daughters." And Jacob says, "Yes, but I have worked for them for all these years, and I worked for the cattle too, and now it's put on my heart by my God to return to my father Isaac. It's put on my heart by my God to return to my father Isaac." And so they make a pact and a promise that the women will be cared for. And they do this, and they say, God is our witness. So number 54, Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount, and called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread, and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up, and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed, and returned unto his place. And Laban departed and returned unto his place. So he says goodbye to his daughters and to Jacob, and he blesses them after he caught up with them, remember she threw the tents and everything, and they had this little meeting, and they explained everything, and they worked it out, and they said, God is our witness. Now they slept for the night in prayer, meditated prayer, I could imagine. And now Laban says, okay, I give you my blessings. Go to Isaac. Return to your land. And so that is Genesis 31. Kind of a little confusing in the beginning. Yeah, I know I got a little confused with different people there, but we see, to sum it up, we see Laban is father to Rachel and Leah, and Jacob has been taking care of them. Well, he's been working in the fields for them, and he's been working for the cattle too. He says I did 14 years for the girls, and I did 6 years for the cattle, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, yeah, that's 20 years. Sorry, I had to count it on my hands. But, I know. I was like, he did say 20, right? But that does, yeah. Anyway. So, let's see, thought process back. Come on now, let's go. Thought process back. So, Laban blesses at the end of the story Jacob returning to Isaac. And he gives in his word the daughters and the cattle and says, go back home. But it is not until after Jacob sneaks away in the middle of the night with the cattle and the women and everything, and Laban goes and finds him and says, what are you doing? I so want to hurt you right now for sneaking my girls, my daughters, and my cattle and everything out in the middle of the night. But God has told me not to harm you. God has told me not to harm you. And so we see that throughout the story, God is always with Jacob and Laban in different forms. Laban is the overall one in charge as kind of like a kindred, so to speak, of Jacob. As Jacob doesn't worship him, but Jacob is a servant to Laban. And Isaac is Jacob's father. And so we see Laban does say, okay, return to your father's land. I give you my blessings, as God is my witness. I shall not overwork you or harm you or hold grudge on you for taking away my daughters and my sheep and my cattle and everything in the middle of the night. But Jacob says, hey, I worked for it, what do you want me to do? He was afraid. He had fear of Laban, and he had fear of God. He had fear of what would happen if he confronted him face to face. And so he snuck out in the middle of the night, and Laban says, what are you doing? As he catches up with him. And so Jacob says, well, this is my case. And Laban says, all right. But throughout this story, we see the kindness of God too. God says, I am watching over you. He guides Laban in consolingly disciplining Jacob for running off in the middle of the night. And we see Jacob, even though he's in fear, God says, I am with you. Do not fear. Do not fear. So anyway, that's little. I think we got into quite a little bit of a discussionary explanation, but it's always good. I try to simplify as best I can. Well, as I am going through, I've read different aspects of the Bible, but I'm not perfect in the study of the Bible. So I'm learning as with you, as we go through this Bible study. We're about halfway through. We're at 31. Genesis has got like 50 chapters. So, many blessings, my friends. Many blessings, and I will see you again soon.